instilling their attention, bringing to awareness what is significance or insignificance of that, also with consciousness, the fifth element of consciousness, putting it into the minds of the people, the minds of even the people that's doing the wrong, you know, the entertainers, etc. And the significance of, or insignificance of, finally there being a museum, so that way the history can be documented and be able to be accessed like a library, and what would be the advantages or disadvantages to such a thing, especially the Bronx where it was born, and for it to finally truths can come out that never came out before, because a lot of people's opinion on hip hop or awareness of it.
Let me stop you. 2 years ago, some people came from Cornell University, and they came with respect and a fat check, and they bought my archive. So that if I die tomorrow, my work will forever be in the Cornell University, in their vault. But it's also not just sitting in a vault. It is also accessible. It's going to be put accessible on the internet and in the world, and as a master database. And the people who came to me were respectful, kind, and knowledgeable. So that means that if I die tomorrow, my work will forever be in that archive. So that's exactly what you're talking about. Having people be able, you know, we all know who Slick Rick is, we all know who Jay-Z is, but in 50 years, nobody will know. So that archival quality is going to be there, and that's very, very important, especially in a digital world where you can access information from anywhere. So my work is now in the permanent collection of the Cornell University files, which is huge for me. I mean, that was just, the respect and the kindness was unbelievable.
Can also say along the same track, right? Okay, hip hop has been corrupted, etc. However it wants to be interpreted. As it spreads globally, or actually it did spread globally, but let's say in Africa or some other, you know, China, some other place where it's still in like real ghetto, you know what I mean? Not like kind of ghetto we are talking about, like actual ghetto, you know what I mean? And like they're getting, for instance, I know a person that came here from Africa, and he's basically, he was
also Trenchtown in Jamaica.
Yeah, that doesn't mean those real ghettos, you know what I mean? Where there's real gangs, real etc. But their perspective, like they're looking at 50 Cent, they're looking at whoever's out there, I don't listen to music, so I'm just saying, like, you know what I mean? So they're looking at those people, so the library, I mean the museum I think would be important along the lines of, say you were from some country where you're just gonna get the fluid version, there has to be some kind of thing where they can somehow tap into the actual original line, as if a bloodline, you know, even in the secret societies, for instance, they still have their archival realm. So you, Bambaataa, etc., all the others in the beginning, you guys are in the archetypal realm of hip hop as far as the primal imagery, which you know all about because you're photography, but even like the dancer, the rapper, etc. So, but the United Nations now, the significance of the United Nations being aware of hip hop, or what exactly in that situation with the United Nations.
Let me explain about the United Nations. The United Nations, on its face, is an organization that's supposed to bring peace between warring nations. The truth is, if you read what the United Nations actually is, and if you read their charter, one of the bylaws of the Charter of the United Nations is birth control and population control, because the powers that be understand that if you have more than 7 billion people, more actually, I forget what the number is, I think 3 billion, they want to get rid of maybe 5 billion of us, 80%, and because we're more controllable therefore. But the truth is that the United Nations is actually, and I'm not going to do that class here, but the United Nations is actually, you know, part of the problem, not part of the solution. And it's a power unto itself. So that could be a whole other thing that I could go into. The reason we went to the United Nations is because we wanted to have an international peace treaty amongst hip-hop people and amongst people of color. So all the people that went there to the hip-hop peace treaty under the auspices of the Temple of Hip-Hop went there and understood that if I was having a problem with her and him, that once I went there, by going there, I acknowledged those were my family, and I would no longer carry that beef once we left. And we took a pledge that day to be peaceful and kind and loving and respectful of one another. That's why we did it at the United Nations, to have that consciousness and to have that awareness and to really fulfill the promise of the United Nations, which the United Nations is not going to do.
You're not going to like that either. All right, thank you.
Thank you, brother. And thank you for all this.
One quick question I have, because you just brought up the, and we'll